It's Wednesday, October 12. In the headlines, a ban on the transmission of music promoting crime and abuse of drugs. Regionally, Guyana moving to improve mental health support days after the region recognized World Mental Health Day. And in sports, Jamaica set to compete in a table tennis championship. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. We begin with news from a post-cabinet press brief held Wednesday morning at the office of the Prime Minister. Minister with responsibility for information in the office of the Prime Minister, Robert Morgan, addressed the Broadcast Commission's ban on the transmission of music or videos promoting crime and the abuse of drugs.
We have a responsibility for the spaces that we control to set the standard and set an example. We're not fettering people's right to free speech. There are so many other portals you can use to promote your artistic freedom. But when it comes to free to air, that is accessible to every single member of our society, no matter their age, from the baby to the elderly, can access free to air. And the thing about Radio Kimon is that if I turn on a radio here, I'm not the only one who is hearing it. Everybody in here will hear it. It's a public facility that caters to the public, that is licensed by the government, that is regulated by particular laws. So it is not about fighting crime. It's about decency and standards.
There shall be no transmission through radio or television or cable services, including music charts, of any audio or video recording, live song or speech which promotes and or glorifies scamming, illegal use or abuse of drugs. Those are the words of the directive issued on Tuesday by Jamaica's Broadcasting Commission. We have the details in this report.
The Commission issued the prohibition under the Television and Sound Broadcasting Regulations. The regulations state, and I quote, "Whereas Regulation 30J of the regulations provides that no licensee shall permit to be transmitted any matter which is likely to incite violence or criminal activity or lead to a breach of the peace. And whereas Regulation 31 of the regulations provides that the Commission may, from time to time, issue to licensees directives in respect of any matter to which the Act and the regulations relate." In the release, which can be found on their website, the Broadcast Commission states that the ban, and I quote, "includes live editing and original edits, example edits by producer or label, and the use of near-sounding words as substitutes for offensive lyrics, expletives, or profanities." According to the release, program managers and station owners or operators are hereby required to take immediate steps to prevent transmission of any recorded material falling into the categories described in the prohibition. Licensees are reminded that in determining suitability for broadcast, they must consider the overall theme or message of the content and not only specific or individual words. For PBCJ News, I'm Carla Thomas Hewitt.
Major Organized Crime and Anti-Corruption Agency has been called in to probe reports of the fraudulent sale of lands near Clifton, St. Catherine. Speaking in Parliament on Tuesday, Prime Minister Andrew Holness said that he's looking to have this probe expanded island-wide and to uncover whether political or government officials were involved in these fraudulent sales. Mr. Holness outlined the sequence of events leading to the demolition of 10 unfinished structures adjacent to the Clifton settlement in the Greater Bernard Lodge development area, where the notorious Klansman gangs is said to have been establishing control in a land sale racket.
There are hard-working people in that community. I would say the majority of the people there. But we have to be truthful. There is an element that has interwoven themselves into the community. And the people there know this, and they won't be able to always speak out in front of the camera as to what the true situation is. But I get the calls, I get the text, I get the messages.
Mr. Holness explained that notices had been given and displayed, and meetings were held in March by Sugar Company of Jamaica SCJ Holdings, which called in residents of the community.
The SCJ indicated that during the first quarter of 2022, the Member of Parliament for St. Catharines Southern advised that there was illegal construction taking place in the area adjoining Clifton. And I want to repeat, there was illegal construction taking place in an area adjoining Clifton, not in Clifton. A team from the Sugar Company of Jamaica was sent out, and evidence of construction was seen, and therefore demolition notices were posted on March 1, 2022, as well as several no trespassing signs. Now, Madam Speaker, I am hearing it circulated that nobody was given notice.
The Prime Minister has invited affected persons to show proof of their legal right to occupy the lands.
Come to us and reason with us. Let us hear what is happening, and we will try and work out a solution. It may be that, the size land that you took over, you really can't get that size, because we have to leave back some space. So come and reason with us.
In this episode of Living Healthy, we will hear about mental health. Mental health is an issue that touches nearly everyone's life in some shape or form. According to the Pan American Health Organization, various studies show that stereotypes, prejudices, and discriminatory behaviors towards people with mental health problems are common. Through messages on social media using #DoYourShare, people are invited to break the silence, share their stories, and have an open and honest conversation about how one really feels, and thereby provide mental health support and reduce stigma and discrimination.
The time is now. Do your part to support mental health. The Pan American Health Organization and the High-Level Commission on Mental Health and COVID-19 together are counting on you to help reduce stigma and discrimination this October 10th, World Mental Health Day. Fear, misunderstanding, and prejudice exacerbate this stigma, as do social exclusion and discrimination of people living with mental health conditions.
We must all unite, the government, public and private institutions, healthcare professionals, community, organization, women, men, youth, and boys, girls of all the Americans to fight against stigma and discrimination. The PAHO, High-Level Commission on Mental Health and COVID-19, is working to develop guidelines and recommendations to make a significant progress in mental health and advocacy in the America.
Seize the moment. Do your part to support mental health.
Hey, do you feel down, alone, or going through a lot right now? You Matter is a 24/7 confidential chat line that supports the mental wellness of young Jamaicans by the Ministry of Health and Wellness and You Report. Messaging us connects you with trained counselors ready to listen and support you. And there's no charge. We know it can be hard to talk sometimes, but we promise this is a safe space. Text us for free with Flow or send a WhatsApp to 876-838-4897. You can also reach us at You Report Jamaica on Facebook Messenger. Remember, mental health matters. You matter.
I definitely like the fact that I don't have to pay bills, I don't need to pay rent right now, that I have time to make mistakes and to feel out what I want out of life, who I want to be, what kind of impact I want to make on this world. Start writing down what you're feeling, journal your thoughts. I also think you can find someone to talk to, right? There must be someone on this planet that you trust with your feelings and your emotions. Try to confide in them. Definitely. And even sometimes when we get the 99, they ask us why we don't get the 100, right? And that can really take a toll on us sometimes, but pressure is on and we have to do well in school. But to what end if we are not mentally well? And mental health has been a taboo topic for a long time. So at this point, therapy and the maintenance of your mental health is a luxury, and that can't be. So that's my question. When will we be prioritizing our mental health?
Stay with us. We have news from the world of business in the Business Report with Anita Rodney.
The recently rebranded Proven Group Limited (PGL) will be opening an office in the Bahamas under its banking and wealth pillar as it expands its reach across the Caribbean. Reports are that the expansion was made possible through the company's acquisition of Heritage Education Funds International, which has clients in the Bahamas. The group currently has subsidiaries in the British Virgin Islands as well as Bermuda. For your market updates, in foreign exchange trading for Tuesday, October 11, the US dollar sold for an average of $153.49. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $111.88. The pound sterling traded for $170.39, and the euro sold for an average of $151.47. In JSE trading, the JSE index advanced by 293 points, the junior market index declined by 15 points, the combined market index advanced by 136 points, and the All Jamaican Composite Index advanced by 436 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 108 stocks, of which 39 advanced, 54 declined, and 15 traded firm. Stocks advanced for Barita Investments Limited, Virgin Paints Jamaica Limited, and Caribbean Cement Company Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Verbal Preference, and 1834 Investments Limited. Trading firm were CAC 2009.5% Cumulative Redeemable Preference Shares, Elite Diagnostic Limited, and Epley 7.50% Preference Shares due 2024. The overall volume leaders were Tropical Battery Company Limited with over 3 million units, Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited with over 2 million units, and Wigton Wind Farm Limited Ordinary Shares with over 1 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Clico Investment Fund was once again the only active security with over 5,000 shares being traded. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, Government of Barbados Bond Series B was a sole security trading 453 shares. In regional business, Prime Minister Mia Mottley says major reforms could be coming to some state-owned enterprises as Barbados embarks on a new program with the International Monetary Fund. Sharika Griffith has that story.
As was the case in the first BERT program, government says it will have to maintain fiscal and debt sustainability as it embarks on a new extended fund facility arrangement with the International Monetary Fund. This time around, Prime Minister Mia Mottley says the focus will be on growth. According to the Prime Minister, the implementation of reforms at state-owned enterprises, including establishing public-private partnerships, will be a critical feature of the revised program.
We've also indicated that the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation cannot continue as it is. The truth is that technology has effectively made the CBC's mission difficult, almost irrelevant in some instances, because we live in a world of narrowcasting as opposed to broadcasting. Each of us will pick up our phone, pick up our computers, and watch what we want to watch, and don't have to worry about free-to-air national television. So those models cannot continue with business as usual.
In international business, during a press briefing on Tuesday, the International Monetary Fund announced that the global economic growth for 2023 has been lowered by 0.2%.
The global economy continues to face steep challenges shaped by three powerful forces: the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the cost of living crisis caused by persistent and broadening inflation pressures, and the slowdown in China. Our global growth forecast for this year is unchanged at 3.2%, while our projection for 2023 is lowered to 2.7%, 0.2 percentage points lower than the July forecast. The 2023 slowdown will be broad-based, with countries accounting for a third of the global economy expected to contract this year or next. The three largest economies, the United States, China, and the euro area, will continue to stall. In short, the worst is yet to come, and for many people, 2023 will feel like a recession. In the United States, the tightening of monetary and financial conditions will slow growth to 1% in 2023. In China, we have lowered next year's growth forecast to 4.4%. due to a weakening property sector and continued lockdowns. The slowdown is most pronounced in the euro area, where the energy crisis caused by the war will continue to take a heavy toll, reducing growth to 0.5% in 2023.
In market data for oil futures fell as a gloomy economic outlook and a strong dollar outweighed supply concerns. Brent crude futures were down $1.42 at $92.87, and West Texas Intermediate crude was down $1.54 at $87.81 a barrel. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Denida Rodney.
In regional news, on Tuesday, Belize's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Iman Courtenay, addressed the 52nd regular session of the Organization of American States General Assembly in Peru. In his remarks, he highlighted the inequalities observed across the Americas, from high commodity prices to income inequalities.
The theme of this General Assembly is Together Against Inequality and Discrimination. Hidden in this theme is an unhappy truth. Inequality and discrimination abound in the Americas. This is a sad truth because the early 2000s witnessed a substantial decline in inequality across the Americas, fueled by commodity booms, wage increases, and anti-poverty social programs. Poverty fell on average from 42.3% in 2002 to 23.1% in 2018, as vast swaths of the population moved into the middle class. However, the COVID-19 pandemic and the end of high commodity prices have increased hemispheric inequality. Mr. President, inequality is a vestige of our colonial past, a colonialism that spawned structurally unequal societies replete with racism and racial inequality. Today, this legacy threatens the stability of our political systems, weakens our social fabric, and fosters unjust societies. Income inequality in Latin America and the Caribbean is a cancer. The richest 10% earns 22 times more than those in the bottom 10%. The richest 1% take in 21% of the income of our economies, while the top 10% collect more than half of the pre-tax national income. This is the inequality that we must come together to fight against.
In Barbados, more than 100 nurses flew into Barbados from Ghana on Monday to bolster the local healthcare system, which is under strain as a result of a shortage of nurses. More from Shane Jones.
Around 8:50, this Euro-Atlantic Airways flight landed safely on the runway at the Grantley Adams International Airport. Shortly after, braving some rainy conditions, 122 Ghanaian nurses disembarked the aircraft and were greeted by local officials headed by Executive Chairman of the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, Juliet Bino Sutherland. Despite the dreary weather, the contingent from the African Republic received a warm welcome. Ms. Bino Sutherland said the nurses come with a range of specialties like critical care, accident and emergency, and ophthalmology, all areas where there are gaps in services here in Barbados.
We are expecting 56 nurses from Ghana to join the Queen Elizabeth Hospital and 66 to join the agencies of the Ministry of Health. That is the geriatric hospital, psychiatric hospital, and polyclinic system. These are nurses of all areas of specialization who were recruited specially to join us here in Barbados. All of them have specialist qualifications. They join us at a time where our need for nursing continues to be great.
The hospital's executive chairman said it is part of the country's continuing efforts to address the nursing shortage.
We're doing our best nationally to ensure that we can increase the output of numbers of nurses at the Barbados Community College. And in all of our institutions, we've enhanced our retention programs for the nurses here in Barbados. However, like many hospitals globally, we are faced with nursing shortages. And there are some countries like Ghana who are producing nurses, excellent nurses, and producing them for the global market.
Meanwhile, Ghana's Director of Human Resources in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Kwesi Asubir, said his country is training nurses at a phenomenal rate.
We are able to produce over 20,000 nurses annually. Looking at the numbers, we think that we cannot consume these numbers locally. We need to support other nations internationally. And this is the first government that has decided, as a matter of policy, to send nurses abroad. And the first country to receive this policy realization is Barbados.
The head of the Health Training Institutions Unit in Ghana gave the assurance that the nurses are well trained.
We have had to follow global standards of training in terms of ICN protocols, that is International Council of Nurses protocols, International Confederation of Midwives protocols. So these nurses meet international standards.
The nurses will be in Barbados for a period of 2 years.
In Guyana, Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony says some 200 doctors and medics in charge of health centers all across the country will be receiving specialized training so they can identify depression.
We recognize that at the level of health centers, we are not able to detect depression as we should. And we know that depression correlates well with, if it's not treated, that people can have suicidal thoughts, and which in some instances can lead ultimately to people committing suicide. So it is extremely important for us to identify patients early and to be able to detect depression so that we can prevent suicide. Now, there are several tools that are available, and WHO has set aside some funding for us to be able to train many of our doctors at the level of the health center. And after completing that training, we believe we'll be able to detect depression in a much more aggressive way and treat these patients. So we want to target all the doctors who work at the health center level. So that probably would be around 200 people. And in instances where we don't have a doctor but we have a medics, we will be training the medics as well. The training, there are various modules, and each module deals with specific clinical things. So for example, we'll go through like what are the clinical signs of depression, then how do you talk to the patient, how do you treat depression, and if you feel you don't have the competence to manage these patients, then to be able to refer them up to the psychiatrist.
In international news, EU energy ministers are meeting in Prague to find ways to tackle sky-high gas prices. The bloc is considering emergency measures like a possible price cap next month.
Katarina Novakova could not believe her energy bill. From $160 one month, it went up to $700 the next. She managed to change provider but still has to pay nearly half her salary to the power company.
I will try to go to the welfare office and see if I can get some housing allowance. Maybe they can help me out. We have to pay our phone bills and food is so expensive too. This has all taken me by surprise. I don't know what to do.
With temperatures dropping, anger is growing. Czech trade unions want leaders to find solutions.
I think that leader of Europe must looking for some common approaches, because it's for us unacceptable to have two European unions, one for the worst countries, one for richest countries. I think that if we want to have future for European Union, we must looking for some common approach for all.
But agreement has yet to be reached on how to reduce the price of gas. At last week's EU summit in Prague, the 27 leaders remained divided.
One of the measures the EU managed to agree on is to cut energy consumption by 15%. Like other European cities, Prague has decided to stop illuminating some of its famous monuments. But everyone agrees more far-reaching measures are needed. And especially in the east and the south of Europe, there's a real push for a price cap on gas.
In sports, a 9-member delegation is set to leave Jamaica on Wednesday for the Caribbean Region Table Tennis Federation Midi-Cadet and Pre-Cadet Table Tennis Championship. The tournament, which will be held in the Clift Anderson Sports Hall in Georgetown, Guyana, is set for October 14 to October 19. Medals will be presented to each competitor in the first, second and third places in the doubles and team events, while trophies will be awarded to the winners of the first 3 absolute places in the singles. Teams from 24 countries are taking part in the Street Child World Cup in Qatar. The tournament has been held ahead of each FIFA World Cup since 2010 and aims to help vulnerable young people around the globe. This is the first time that a team from Palestine has taken part.
Their captain tells us, in her own words, how sport is helping to give her a voice.
My name is Aya Habayib. I'm 18 years old, born in Tulkarem, West Bank. Since my early childhood, I've loved sport. I've been part of Sports for Life as a player for 6 years. Our team started in 2017, and I joined the following year. We have 2 regular weekly training sessions at this school field. The team that is taking part in Qatar is made up of 10 girls. Given the region's cultures and traditions, a girl footballer is looked at differently, particularly in our society. That's why girls from refugee camps were selected, because they are marginalized, and this gives us a voice. Taking part in the Sport for Life Foundation was a U-turn in our lives. The girls came from a totally closed environment. Now they are given the opportunity to show their capabilities and also to unleash their talents. To me, sport is the key to the whole world. Through sports, I can have a voice, and I have an outlet for my negative energies as well. My message to the world is that we are the children of Palestine, deprived of our full rights. For example, the right to play. We do not have enough playing fields. Even the one we train on is asphalt ground, and it is very dangerous. However, we never give up. When we travel to play against teams in other towns, we have to go through roadblocks and search measures. We face many, many harsh difficulties. The Israeli occupation forces are turning our lives into a nightmare. This is the first time for me to travel abroad and to be on a plane, so I have mixed feelings of excitement, thrill, and fear. But it is also the first time for Palestinian children to take part in this event. So I'm excited to be the first to represent Palestine. It is an unprecedented opportunity. I will invite the other teams to come and visit. We will make friends, we will establish contacts and relationships, and one day in the future, we will meet again.
And that's it for the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. And remember, we are the People's Station.